Hi, I'm Maddy Vera, and I'm here to support the resolution that books are better than movies. My three main points are that books can take time with a story, while movies need to be under a few hours long. Books allow you to understand the narrator's feelings about what is going on in the story better than a movie can, and that in books, a lot more can happen that is unable to be properly depicted by movies. My first point. Books can take hours to read, such as the book It by Stephen King, that can take an average reader, so one that reads about 250 words a minute, 24 hours to complete the book, while both It 1 and It 2, the movies, take an average of 4 hours to watch. Undoubtedly, a lot needs to be cut from the movies in order to tell a story that takes over a day to read. An example of this is the movie and the book, Rebecca. In the story Rebecca, the main character dreams of her former home, Manderley. The book describes Manderley with the narration. The drive wound away in front of me, twisting and turning as it had always done. But as I advanced, I was unaware the change that had come upon it. It was narrow and unkempt, not the drive we had known. At first I was puzzled and did not understand, and it was only when I bent my head to avoid the low swinging branch of a tree that I realized what had happened. Nature had come into her own again, and little by little, in her stealthy, insidious ways, had encroached upon that drive with long, tenacious fingers. The woods, always a menace, even in the past, had triumphed in the end. They crowded dark and uncontrolled to the borders of the drive. The beeches were white, with naked limbs leaned close to one another, their branches intermingled in a strange embrace, making a vault above my head like an archway of a church. And there were other trees as well, trees that I did not recognize, squat oaks and tortured elms that strangled cheek by jowl with the beeches and had thrust themselves out of the quiet earth along with the monster shrubs and plants, none of which I remembered. The movie, on the other hand, describes Manderley with minimal narration in a dark nighttime scene that is unable to present such an overgrown nature that envelops the mansion. Because Rebecca is such a long book, a movie could never fully describe and tell this story as it was meant to be told. My second point is that books allow you to understand the narrator's feelings about other characters and scenes better than a movie can. An example of this is The Great Gatsby, a novel by F. Scott Fitzgerald, and a movie that was released in 2013. Even the most well-known scenes in the movie, Nick Carraway, the narrator, meeting Gatsby, cannot compare to the book's description. In the movie, fireworks go off as Gatsby raises his champagne towards Nick, showing a scene of outlandish grandeur and wealth. The book, although, describes something completely different and is able to provide a more full explanation of Nick's thoughts. Nick saw Gatsby and realized that he smiled understandingly, much more than understandingly. It was one of those rare smiles with a quality of eternal reassurance to it that you may only come across 4 or 5 times in life. It seemed to face the whole external world for just an instant, and then concentrated on you with irresistible prejudice in your favor, and understood you just as far as you wanted to be understood, believed you just as you would like to believe in yourself, and assured you that it had an impression of you that, at your best, you hoped to convey. Precisely at that point, it vanished, and I was looking at an elegant young roughneck, a year or two over 30, whose elaborate formality of speech just missed being absurd. Some time before he introduced himself, I got a strong impression that he was picking his words with care. Almost at the moment when Gatsby identified himself, a butler hurried towards him with the information that Chicago was calling him on the wire. He excused himself with a small bow and included each of us in turn. The book is able to present Gatsby as not just mysterious and wealthy, but also putting up a well-maintained and developed facade that foreshadows the rest of the story. We understand Nick's feelings and thoughts about Gatsby better too, because we are not just looking at Gatsby with him, like in the movie. We are observing Gatsby through Nick's eyes and mind. My third point and final point is that books that in books, a lot more can happen that is unable to be properly depicted by movies. CGI, or computer-generated imagery, is getting a lot better, but it still cannot always demonstrate what is happening in a story or book. VFX, or visual effects, can be difficult to get right and can cost upwards of $2,000 up to $5,000 for a minute a shot. Books, on the other hand, do not cost any extra money to depict fantastical scenes and allow almost anyone to tell a story. Movie creation is limited to those with money, and short films, while cheaper, cannot depict anything too unnatural without costing thousands. Movies are a medium with many more limits than books, and while entertaining, can hinder an artist's ability to create significantly. While I think animation is able to demonstrate similar scenes to one in a book, it costs too much for people in studios to do. Books allow almost anyone to become storytellers with just a pen and paper. While it can be argued that movies are more accessible, libraries allow audiences to access books for free, and local events such as open mic nights can allow anyone to tell their story for free. In summary, books do not have the same constraints, time constraints, narration constraints, or budget restraints that movies do. Books are a freeing form of expression that allow almost anyone to read or write without the confinements that movies have.